So these are the this is the TS diagram. So and it is available in chart form in terms of figure like this, and also given in charts in tabulated form. There are also softwares available where you from where you can calculate the properties, and these softwares are based on correlations which are well established, relating different properties. So let us look at the uh, this diagram, which is the TS diagram for steam. So this is entropy, kilojoules per kg per Kelvin. This is all specific quantity. So it is all per kg basis. Similarly, this is temperature, and this is in centigrade. So here you can see this is the saturated liquid, and this is saturated vapor line, x equal to 1 and x equal to 0. And this is a constant pressure line, constant pressure going up. This is 1 bar constant pressure, atmospheric pressure. So you can see here the temperature is also constant, pressure is also constant. When the transformation is phase change is taking place from x equal to 0, which is the liquid, to x equal to 1, which is the saturated vapor. And in between, it is assumed that the property varies linearly with x. X varies from 0 to 1, and the property also varies from uh, the saturated liquid condition to saturated vapor condition linearly. So you can interpolate and find out the intermediate properties. But sometimes you will see, especially if it is a software, they don't rely on this and give you the exact property for the given x. So if that is available, you can use that also. But otherwise, the approximation is assume that it linearly varies, and then if I'm giving you x equal to 0.25, so assuming linear variation, you can find out the property. Now, apart from the pressure, which is 1 bar here, it also gives you the specific volume, say 1 meter cube per kg. So this is a specific volume. These thin lines are specific volume. So look at the specific volume. See, specific volume is increasing within the phase change process. See, this one is another one, say 0.1 meter cube per kg. This is specific volume increasing, and then this is increasing like this. So similar to this one is another one. So that means within this dome, when phase change is taking place, right? And if you have a rigid container, that means your rigid container with no mass coming in or coming out, what happens is when you heat up water, then steam is formed. So, and the specific volume remains the constant because it's a rigid vessel, fixed mass, fixed volume. So the proportion of water, liquid water and steam will change. So you have to follow this line, this constant specific volume. So constant specific volume line will tell you what happens when you heat up water in a closed rigid vessel, and the specific volume then remains constant. And as you can see, the temperature will rise, pressure will rise, and the proportion of the steam finally will become 100%. After that, it becomes superheated. So in this region, the enthalpy, internal energy, these are all dependent on temperature. Because it's a liquid, you can assume that it's dependent only on temperature. In this case here, it is dependent on both temperature and pressure. And here, it also depends on the another property called the fraction of steam, where the value of x. So here it will also depend on that. So armed with this knowledge, so let us try to solve a few problems. So this you must visualize. Although you're using the software or the chart, this must be uh, in your mind, this chart. So there is a chart for this condition. Right? So what is given in the chart is only the endpoints here and here. Right? So when the X value is given to you, you have to interpolate and find out the intermediate properties. So this is called the, yesterday I have shown it to you. It is called the saturation chart or table, where uh, the end two conditions are given. This condition and this condition is given. It is listed as temperature, based on temperature at different temperature levels. It is also listed based on pressure, temperature and pressure separately. And then you have separately superheated region. You have a separate chart for the superheated region. And for the compressed liquid also you have a separate chart. But many a times this compressed liquid chart is not available. So what we do is, as we know that the property here is only dependent on temperature. So whatever property we have in the saturation condition, liquid saturation condition, if you know the temperature, right, that same value is being used even if it is not saturated liquid, but it is away from the saturation line, only based on temperature. So if the temperature of the liquid water is given, so you look up the saturated liquid chart, get the property of enthalpy and use that enthalpy even if the liquid is not on the saturation line. That is an established way of working. But that luxury you don't have for steam. So for steam, you have to know the pressure and temperature and find out the property. So if we look at this here, so this is the H2O saturation, right? So of course this is small, so I have to use. So here you can see it is based on pressure. For different pressures, saturation temperature is given, and F and G, they are the liquid and vapor. That is, so this is based on pressure. There's another one which is based on temperature, right? Only temperature, saturation condition on temperature. And then you have the condition for superheated. See, this is superheated condition. Superheated condition. How do you read up the superheated condition? This is the saturation condition, 1.6 megapascal and 201 degree centigrade. That is the saturation condition. And if it is superheated for different temperatures, right, for the same pressure of 1.6 megapascal, I was showing you that line, right, 1 bar line. So like that, for this pressure, right, this is the saturation condition. If it is more than 201 degrees centigrade, like 225, 250, 300, then you can find out the specific volume, internal energy, H, S, everything is given. Similarly here for 1.8, saturation condition is 207, and then if the temperature is more than that, 125, 250, so these are superheated, you can get all the properties. So you will get the properties like this. Now, sometimes we also have a compressed water. Right? This is for compressed water. So for 5 megapascal, right, for compressed water. So at different temperatures, it is given for different temperatures. So it is only temperature dependent. As I told you, for the liquid, compressed liquid, it is mainly dependent on temperature. So that is given to you based on the temperature, right? For a given pressure, so it varies with temperature. But it is not always, you don't have to use it. So if you don't have this table, then just base it on temperature. this is more accurate, right? If you will see the dependence on pressure is much less, right? Dependence on pressure is much less, right, for a particular temperature. There is some dependence. Say for example, especially of course high pressures, right? Say for example, if you increase double the pressure from 5 to 10 megapascal, the density changes from 1000 to 1002, right? So there is a small difference, 1002, even if you double, right? If you make it 4 times, it becomes 1007, right? 1007. So, but if you consider the liquid to be incompressible, right? Incompressible, then it remains, density remains constant. So you can do that, but there'll be little bit of error, right? Because the small change in density that you're seeing, and if you look at U energy, internal energy, it becomes 83.6 to 83.3. You increase the pressure. Increase the pressure to 4 times, then it becomes 82.7. So dependence on pressure is very, very small. But look at the dependence on temperature. So 20 to 100, 20 to say 40, double it. So it is 994, right? But look at the change in internal energy, 83 to 166, large change. Look at the change in entropy, large change in entropy. It is double. Entropy is double, right? With temperature when it's double. So the dependence on temperature for internal energy, enthalpy and entropy is far more than dependent on pressure. That is why if it's not available, just don't take the dependence on pressure, just use the dependence on temperature. So this is, now we have some insight on how to get the properties. Now let us recapitulate. Before we do the problems, let us recapitulate the what we have done on so here, as you know, this is the general equation for change in for first law and second law, right? First law and second law. So if you are using so here, so as we know, so this is the change in energy inside the control volume. And why is this change in energy taking place? And when we talk about change in energy, we talk of internal energy, kinetic energy, potential energy. Many a times for the problems that we do, kinetic energy change and potential energy change can be neglected in many cases. And this change in energy inside the control volume is because of the energy coming in due to mass flow m dot I. Right? You must note that here I am using U, internal energy, while here I am using enthalpy. I have told many times we are using enthalpy here because this H is basically U plus PV. So U is the internal energy coming in and PV is the flow work. So this is because of the internal energy plus flow work. So that is why we've written H here, but U here. Similarly, here also we are using H. So this tells us how much energy is coming in, how much is going out, right? Through mass flow. We are also finding how much of heat is coming in, how much of work transfer is there. And these are heat transfer. Q's are heat transfer. So I can do a balance, right? The net energy coming in as heat has to be taken into account. The net work going out has to be taken into account. And the net flow of energy because of mass flow has to be taken into account. And then this will give us tell us the rise of energy inside the control volume. Now, same thing if we do with entropy. So this is the change in entropy inside the control volume. So this is mass and this is a specific entropy. And what are the contributions for entropy? So this one is a change in entropy inside, and this is coming in, right? This entropy coming in, this entropy going out, and this is also contributing entropy generation, right? So S dot gen always greater than or equal to 0. Right? And what else is coming in through the boundary, right? And that is your the other part that is coming in is U dot by T. All the Q dot by T's, right? So entropy. This does not contribute to entropy. Only the Q, entropy due to heat flow, right? This is what happens. So this is the entropy, this is the entropy contribution, right? So this is in, right? Coming in, right? While this is out. So in is positive, right? Coming in is positive. So you have to only take care of the entropy coming in and divide by the temperature of the boundary. Entropy of the boundary. Okay, work does not contribute to an entropy. So now you know how to write the equation for entropy. Right? So we know now how to write the equation for energy balance and how to write the equation for entropy. In entropy, entropy comes in, entropy goes out, change in entropy inside, there's entropy generation, right? And due to heat, there is entropy. Work does not contribute to any entropy. Right? So we should be able to write the equations for entropy. Right? Now we also have, finally, we have the these concepts of work, right? We have also so we have introduced these two terms. Let me do it properly here. Now we have also introduced this concept of exergy. So we have introduced this concept of exergy where we are involving this term also. This term. There are some important properties. Plus. So these are some extra terms that we have and which is associated with exergy. So like we have in the second law, like we have balance of entropy that I have shown you, we can also have balance of exergy. Balance of exergy, where this is the dead state. Right? Dead state. So all these properties can be figured out. So I have discussed that. So we have first law, which is energy balance. We have regular second law, entropy balance, and as an extension of the second law, like entropy balance, there is an equivalent exergy balance also, another way of looking at it. So in this case, this is the net flow exergy. This is coming in and going out, and this is the change in exergy inside. Right? And how do you calculate that? This is how you calculate it. This is a property, and this is the heat transfer. Heating. Right? So this gives you the reversible. This gives you the reversible work. Reversible work. But if you want to do real system, right? Real system. With irreversibility. Then the useful work, you have to add the entropy generation. Add. Here entropy generation is right 0 because reversible. So here you have to add entropy generation, right? And S dot gen greater than equal to 0. So this is for real system with the reversibility, and this is for ideal, right? Ideal. Ideal and real. Right? Ideal, reversible. Okay. So as we know, so this gives you the reversible useful work. So this useful is also has to be taken into account. Useful, 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 right? Useful. So that is why this gives you the useful work. And I have also talked about the second law efficiency. Second law efficiency, right? Based on our the ideal work, useful work that we can get, and the actual work that we are getting. That comparison gives us the second law efficiency. So now you have an idea about the energy balance using first law and entropy balance using the second law, and another form of similar to entropy balance, we can combine energy and entropy balance and then come up with exergy, where we are really able to see whether we are able to get we are able to utilize the uh, thermodynamic system to its full potential or not. If you are able to get useful work fully, it's 100% efficient. But when you do thermodynamic analysis by first law, there is no concept of 100% efficient because we know heat cannot be converted to full work. Right? So let us now, this I have told many times, but I want to tell it again so that it goes into your head. Now let us try to do some problems. So some of these problems we have discussed in the last class, right? And let us now discuss some other problems, right? So these are mainly some simple application of first law, and you have to know how to calculate the properties. So this is, let me take another one. Let us look at this problem. So like you have water and steam, right? You also have refrigerants, refrigerant 134A. So here also you have liquid and vapor. When evaporates, it becomes vapor. So you can imagine that dome, and you can assume the constant pressure lines, uh, and the constant specific volume lines and the constant enthalpy. They are all given in that as a diagram or in tabular form in the books. So the properties, once you say 200 kilopascal and 20 degrees centigrade, right? So if this is in the liquid zone or in the vapor zone, you can immediately get the properties. But if it is in the inside the dome where it's liquid and vapor together, then you also need another property called the uh, quality, right? Quality. So quality X equal to 1 means complete vapor. Quality X equal to 0 means saturated liquid. So one is saturated vapor, saturated liquid, right? And in between, if you have, then linearly you have to interpolate and find it out. Okay. So this flows through a pipe. Heat is supplied here, Q. The volume rates of air at the inlet and exit, the mass flow rate, and the velocity of the exit. Right. So let us look at it. So this is the inlet condition and this is the outlet condition. The speed is given. So once the speed is given, so if you know the speed and if you know the specific volume, right? For this condition, 200 kilopascal and 20 degrees centigrade. So that is the specific volume, right? And at 180 kilopascal and 40 degrees centigrade, this is the specific volume. So specific volumes are known here. So here, so if the mass flow rate is given, m 5 meters per second, the velocity is given, right? And if the area is known, area of cross section, so that is also given, area, right? The diameter is known. So then you can calculate the volume flow rate, and also the corresponding mass flow rate, right? So many kgs. So because mass flow rate is constant, so so the volume flow rate can be found out. If you know the mass flow rate at the outlet, the volume flow rate can be found out. So this is a simple problem. So where basically you have to know how to look up the properties. So warm water is withdrawn from a solar water storage tank while cold water enters the tank. So cold water is entering and warm water going out. Right. So inside it is 300 liters and 450 degrees centigrade. The amount of water in the tank in a 20-minute period is to be determined. So coming in and warm water is withdrawn. So let us see. So the properties are given: density of water, okay, say 1000 kgs per meter cube, density of water, liquid water. So at that, so that it is given, right? As I told you, it will vary a little bit from 1000 kgs per meter cube depending on the pressure and temperature. But if you consider liquid to be incompressible, you can make this assumption. It has to be given. So then this is the mass inside the tank. Right? Mass inside the tank is always 300 kgs. So the amount of warm water leaving the tank over a 20-minute period that is given, right? With over a 20-minute period is given. So that is so many kgs, 188 kgs. Right? So the amount of cold water during the same period, right? Amount of cold water entering the tank during the same period. So here it is ME, right? ME and MI, right? So this is 100, this is so much, so different, right? So this is not steady state. So this is not, so it is different, right? So exit and inlet are different, right? So you have to do a mass balance. So initially, so here you have, uh, so it goes from, so this, so this gives us the net mass input. So this gives us, so it is not a steady state, steady flow problem. So there's a net mass input. So we know that initially net mass input, right? So, so initially, the initial mass in the tank is first determined from 300 kgs, right? So net mass input. So 300 kg is the initial value M1, and then the net increase is 215. So final will be, so anyway, so this is what has to be determined. So it is just, you have to get the properties and then solve it. So this is the accumulation, net mass input. So air is accelerated in the nozzle from 120 meters per second to 380 meters per second. So this is the steady flow process, right? So here, what is going to happen is, because there is no work interaction, right? Device is adiabatic, right? Adiabatic device. So no heat transfer, no work transfer. Right? So the enthalpy of the air, you can, for air is a mixture of mainly nitrogen and oxygen. For air also table is there. So at 500 K, H is, this is as per this table. Right? So here the enthalpy is given as a function of, so this is air. Air means this is air coming in and going out. So here we are not taking this change in pressure and all that. So it is all atmospheric pressure. We're assuming atmospheric pressure, right? Open to atmospheres. Of course, the pressure is changing, but we are getting the properties from table at atmospheric pressure. So one inlet, one exit, one inlet, one exit, and therefore mass is same. So we take the nozzle, that is our control volume. So this is our control volume. We take this control volume, right? Control volume. So this is in, out, and so here this steady state. So it is zero change inside, steady state, steady flow, steady flow. So then enthalpy, we can do this balance and get the right. So we know the enthalpy is balanced, and then we get the uh, we get the new temperature, right? So that uh, so so this is the in this case velocity is given, kinetic energy, right? So change in right. So this is the change. So so this way we are able to calculate this. So there is a change in velocity. So it's given, right? So nozzle meters per second to we can calculate the change in kinetic energy, right? So the enthalpy change and kinetic energy change together, this is zero, right? So because we know the kinetic energy change, we will know the enthalpy change. Enthalpy at the inlet is known at 500 K. And so at the outlet also we can figure out because we know the change in kinetic energy. So outlet also we are able to figure out. Once you know the enthalpy, right, at the outlet, so enthalpy is a function of temperature. So inlet to outlet. So for enthalpy is a function of temperature. For air is an ideal gas, right? So it only depends on the temperature. So if you know the inside temperature when coming in, you also know the enthalpy. When it's going out, also you know the enthalpy. Why there's a change in enthalpy? Because there is a change in kinetic energy. There is no change in there is no heat transfer, work transfer, but change in kinetic energy. So that is why it is happening. And you have to use then you can use the ideal gas law. For air, right? For air. So this way you are able to get the pressure also, right? So it's a example of conversion change in enthalpy due to kinetic energy inside the nozzle. So this is of course for a steam turbine, uh, right? Steady state, steady flow, right? Adiabatic. Okay. And change in kinetic potential energy negligible. So from the steam tables, you are able to get the if the property is known, right? So this is H, the enthalpy. You can look up the enthalpy at 10 megapascal and 500 degrees centigrade, right? But in this case, here it is okay, liquid plus vapor, right? This is liquid plus vapor. So X2 is given, which is 0.9. So you can linear interpolation. You do linear interpolation. Linear interpolation, and then you get the H2 because this is given. So we know H1 with the H2. So H1, we know H2, we know. So this is also one inlet, one exit. So this becomes equal. Mass becomes equal. So now we can do the energy balance. So we can do the energy balance, right? Energy balance. We can do the energy balance and find out the required mass flow rate of steam is determined to be right. So mass is, so if this is the workout is given, right? The work, once you know the workout, you can find out the m dot, right? M dot can be found out. If the work is, so if you have to get so much of work out of the turbine, then what is the mass flow rate that you need can be then found out. Right. Okay. So this is BTU. Let us not look at this BTU thing. So here there's another one, liquid water is heated and mixing is taking place with superheated steam. So what you do is you have liquid water and you are injecting superheated steam, right? So the steam will condense and the water temperature will rise. So this is the whole idea. See, when we take shower, of course we don't use steam, but we mix cold water with hot water, right, at very high temperature, so that the whatever we get from the shower when we take bath, then that temperature is whatever we want by controlling the mixing of the hot and cold water. Here also same thing, liquid cold water and superheated steam are being mixed to get the requisite temperature. So this is a steady flow process. No work, it's a fixed vessel. Now, like our water heater that we use, we don't want any loss, so it is well insulated from the outside. So it is adiabatic, right? Heat transfer is negligible. So there is only exchange of heat, from between the two streams, but there is nothing going out, right? So we know at 300 kilopascal, it is 133.52 degrees centigrade. So the cold water, is compressed liquid, and the mixture, right, of the superheated steam and the water is also a compressed liquid, right? So as I explained to you, can be approximated as a saturated liquid at the given temperature. So what is happening is, for this compressed liquid in the books, there is, of course, I shared with you a detailed chart where for compressed liquid, the variation of enthalpy and internal energy with pressure, which is very small, is given. But in the books, you will see they don't consider, for this compressed liquid, the effect of pressure variation is not being considered. So here, right, so here enthalpy is a function of temperature, internal energy is a function of temperature. So these are only functions of temperature, right? Only depends on temperature. Right? So what we do is, so get it for the saturated condition. So get it for saturated condition only, right? Right? Saturated liquid. So whatever you say 20 degrees centigrade, you look up the diagram that I showed you, Mollier's diagram, where TS diagram, and along the saturation, liquid saturation line, you see at that temperature what is the enthalpy that is to be used. So say, let us say 20 degrees centigrade, let us see, and 60 degrees centigrade, what is the enthalpy? Let us see according to the chart. Moliere diagram. So let us go there. '60 and 20 degrees centigrade. Let us look up the chart. So 20 degrees centigrade and 60 degrees centigrade. So 20 degrees centigrade here, right? If you know the enthalpy, right? So where is the enthalpy given? So this is 2600, right? Kilojoules per kg is the enthalpy here, right? 2600 kilojoules per kg, 2600 kilojoules per kg, 2400 kilojoules per kg, 2000 kilojoules per kg, 800 kilojoules per kg, 600, 400, 200, right? 200 kilojoules per kg. So here, at saturated condition, it will have some enthalpy here. Similarly, at 60 degree also here it will have enthalpy, right? So at 60 degrees centigrade, 20 degrees centigrade, we have to see what is the enthalpy. That is the enthalpy that we will use, right? If you want to be more accurate, then what do you have to do? If you want to be more accurate, then you have to use the compressed liquid, right? Let us look at the compressed liquid, right? So at 20 degrees centigrade, right, for compressed liquid, so if it is 5 megapascal is 83.6. If it is 10 megapascal is 83.3, right? So there is dependence on pressure. But what it is telling you is that not to consider this dependent on pressure and only take it to be dependent on temperature, right? And then solve it. So that is also possible because that variation is very small. So here it is saying take it from the saturated line, from the liquid, saturated liquid. Whatever value you get at 20 degrees centigrade for saturated liquid, right? This F means saturated liquid. F means saturated liquid, right? This F, right? F means saturated liquid. So take that value, right? So this way you are able to get the property enthalpy. So, but for steam, 300 kilopascal and 300 degrees centigrade, which is steam on the right hand side of the Moliere chart that I showed you diagram. There, once you specify pressure and temperature, it is unique. You can find out H2, right? You can find out the H2 because it is unique. And we can again look up, right? Just to so that you get the idea. So let us see, it is unique. If you look at this very carefully. So once you get the temperature, right? Get the temperature and say 10 bar, 10 bar. So we say this is the temperature, this is the 10 bar. So this is the 3000 kilojoules per kg enthalpy line, 3200 kilojoules per enthalpy line. So if we are here, right? So pressure and temperature uniquely defines your point and you can get a enthalpy in between 3000 and 3200 from the chart. This is unique. Only pressure and temperature is required here. But here what you do is once you know the temperature, you find out the property here and then assume that that is valid, you know, and along that line you have the same, as long as you have the same temperature, you have the same property here. That's not precisely true. I've shown you that it changes with pressure, but you can assume that. But when it is steam here, it is unique. Pressure and temperature given means you get the enthalpy here. It is unique, right? So that is what it is doing here. So here you can calculate the property, right? Because it is unique. It is unique. Property is unique. So once you get the, it's a question of finding out the property. Once you find out the property, then you know we have two inlets, right? Two inlets and one outlet. So you know how much is coming in. You know, this is your, what is your control volume? This will be your control volume. So this is your control volume. So this is your control volume, right? So this is your control volume. The control volume. So you know what is coming in, you know, at two places, you know what is the energy associated with the steam and water coming in. You can look up the tables, right? And here you have to consider enthalpy, and this is what is enthalpy going out, right? And it is steady state, steady flow. So you can do the balance and do the calculations.
Sir, break, sir.
Yes, let us have a break.
Sir, I want to ask one thing.
Yes.
Sir, when will be will there be any test of thermodynamics?
So let us start. So here, this is also an energy balance. I will go through it very quickly. So here also, it is same two streams meeting, and then together, uh, same two streams here also it's mixing, and then through the room, and then you know the temperatures here for air is an ideal gas, right? So here ideal gas means air. This you cannot do for this water steam, right? You cannot take it like this for water steam. For water steam, for your refrigeration working fluid R134A, you have to get the enthalpy from the charts, right? Only for water as a liquid, you can assume that enthalpy is dependent on temperature, and you can do it, right? And if you have air, we normally consider it to be, you know, ideal gas. Air we consider to be ideal gas, because you will see, because it is far away from the triple point, right, for air. So that is why the air pressure, say 1 atmosphere, 2 atmosphere, and the temperatures that we are talking about, it is very low pressure for air, considered to be very low pressure for air, and that is why it behaves as an ideal gas. So for air we have to ideal gas. So it is only depend on the temperature here, right? It's all depend on temperature. So that is why you can get the properties. Once you get the properties, you apply the law, and the gas constant for air is known, right? So you can calculate. So you have to do mass balance, energy balance. These are very important, right? And especially if it was one inlet, one outlet. It was so this has to be taken care of because there are multiple inlets. So the mass balance has to be properly done, right? So mass balance, energy balance will give you the H3, right? H3 outlet you get, right? So that H3, right? So it's 24 degrees centigrade, right? So mixture temperature is 22.9 degrees centigrade. Right. So you can, for the room, you can get the heat gain, right? So inside the room, right? So heat is supplied at 24 degrees centigrade inside the room, and then two streams. So this is all quick energy balance, right? Let us not. So this is a different kind of problem. So this is also a heat exchanger, right? Is not insulated to produce steam from the heat given up by the exhaust gases of an internal combustion engine. So here for H2O, look up the tables for properties. You have to look up the tables from properties for H2O. You cannot use the way you are doing for the air, right? So H2O, you have to look up the tables. For air, you can assume it to be an ideal gas. So, but if it is saturated liquid for the temperature that we are talking, inlet and exit enthalpies of water, right? So at the inlet at 15 degrees centigrade, that is the inlet, and whatever we say, this is right. So here you have one is a cold stream. It's the cold stream of water, right? And hot stream of exhaust gas. Okay, so hot stream exhaust gas. So there is both heat exchange here, heat exchange, as well as heat exchange outside. This is what is happening. So work equal to 0 for this case. No work transfer. So there is heat transfer to the outside as well heat exchange between them. But if we take our control volume, right, this is our control volume. So this is our control volume. So we need not bother unless we want to know what is the exchange. So if this is our inside whatever we are having, we are only bothered about the exchange with the environment, right? So using that, if this is input is given, so this input is given, this input is given, this input is given. If three are given, right? And if it is steady state, steady flow, then this can be found out from the enthalpy here can be found out from the energy balance. Enthalpy inlet is known. This enthalpy outlet is known. This enthalpy inlet is known. So only one out of four, inlet outlet ports, only one is unknown, the property here. So so this is how, so we can relate them, right? So this is a 15 degrees centigrade. So P out, this is at 2 megapascal. So these properties are known, water in, water out, right? And mass is also, a mass balance is known, total mass for each stream, for each fluid stream, right? In and out, we know what is mass coming in, what is mass out. So for a entire heat exchanger, we have to do the energy balance, right? So for the entire heat exchanger for this control volume, total coming in equal to total going out. So total coming in is, this is in, right? This is in, right? In, and this is also in, right? This is in, this is also in. So total coming in, right, in will be equal to out. So out will be, these two will be out. So one of them property is known, another one property is not known, right? And this is Q out. So kinetic energy, if you neglect, so here what we are having is, right, this one. Okay. So this is the, right. So noting that the mass flow rate of exhaust gases is 15 times that of water, right? So the mass flow rate is are all known. Mass flow rate is all known. Okay. And then, and also this is also another this thing that you have to do, that heat given up by the exhaust gases and heat picked up by the water, right? So this difference, right? If it was completely insulated, then heat given up by the exhaust gases will be equal to the heat taken up by the water, right? But if it is some energy is lost, right, then they'll not be equal. So this also you can set up another equation and you can find out the heat loss. Right, you can find out the heat loss. So, but because solving several equations together, you may need some kind of a iteration approach, trial and error may not necessary, because every time you have to look up the properties, right? For air, it's an ideal gas, exhaust gas, if you take it. But for water, you have to every time look up the property. So you may need some for solving some simultaneous equations. You will need to go through some trial and error procedure. So basically you have to write down the equations for energy balance. If it's a heat exchanger, there are several things that you have to do. One is the combined analysis. See there are two things here. Okay. So one is uh, one is control volume. One is Right. Two equations are there. Two equations. One energy equation is for the full control volume, right? Another is energy equation between cold and hot streams. Okay, so these are both have to be. One is a combined one, and separately also we have one. Just a minute. Hello, class. Both have to be taken into account. Two energy equations have to be taken into account. So a sealed electronic box is to be cooled by tap water flowing through the channels. So you have tap water flowing through the channels. On the two sides, the mass flow rate of water and the amount of water used per year are to be determined. So one is steady state operating exists. Entire heat generated is dissipated by water. So whatever heat is being generated here goes to the water. Goes to the water. So there is exchange of heat between water and the electronic that box which generates 4 kilowatt of water. Like you can think of two different bodies exchanging heat. One will lose heat and other will gain heat. So and we have to check whether it is the box, the whole thing may be insulated. Nothing will go outside. So water is an incompressible substance with constant specific heat. So here, so specific heat is constant. That is what is being assumed here. In reality, so that means if that is told to you, then you can find out the enthalpy change of liquid water. Steam, it would be difficult for liquid water. If the specific, then you can assume that to be. So the specific of water at room temperature is given. It's very close to room temperature. Right? So then again, this energy balance has to be done. So here, so this is so here we know that so this is the heat generated, right? So this is the heat generated, and so this is the water. So this is the water property. Cp. Water Cp is given. So change in. So water we cannot see it is Cp, Cv. There is no difference. We say water only Cp, whatever. So there is no difference of Cp and Cv. Right? And anyway, of course, this water is almost constant pressure. This pressure variation is very small. So for water, I say specific heat. See, when it is compressed, when it's a liquid, we are not differentiating between Cp and Cv, like for gas. It's just specific heat. Specific heat is given, and 4 degrees centigrade is the temperature difference. So the heat that is being transferred from here to there is Q dot. So you can see that this is the amount of to be able to transfer 4 kilojoules per second, 4 kilowatt. So you need to have this much of flow rate. So Otherwise, if you don't have this flow rate, the temperature will different. So this is another problem. This is also a heat transfer problem. A long low roll of large one large manganese steel plate is to be quenched in an oil bath at a specific rate. You have a steel plate to be quenched in an oil bath. Rate at which heat needs to be removed from the oil to keep its temperature constant is to be determined. So this is the roll steel plate. The steel plate goes through the oil bath continuously and it is going out. So it's coming in and going out. You have understood the problem. The problem is that in a steel plant, right, you have to cool this. When the steel is manufactured, the steel plates are very hot. So it is passed through some sort of a quenching medium, right, continuously, that roll, so that the temperature can be controlled. So you dip it in a bath, oil bath of 45 degrees centigrade. So the heat is transferred to the oil and the oil also has to be kept cooled. It's a huge bath of oil and the oil has to be kept cooled by some cooling means. So we take the volume occupied by the sheet metal in the oil bath to be the system, which is a control volume. The energy balance for this steady process can be expressed in the form as. So here what we are doing is, so this is our control volume. Did I start the recording? Let's see if I can start. Okay, it's recording. So this is my bath control volume. So this is coming in. My sheet is coming in. So it is hot and here it is cold. When it comes out, it is cold. So steady state, steady flow process. So here the right is hot, steel plate at 10 meters per second is going in and coming out. So here also, so at the inlet I know the enthalpy of the steel that is going in. I know the enthalpy of the steel when it is coming out, and I know the mass that is going in of the steel and the mass that is coming out. So therefore, right, so this is the mass flow of steel, right? Kgs per minute, right? It's the mass flow of steel. So like your, right. So from here we know how much of the heat has to be transferred to the oil bath, right? Because And the oil bath also has to be continuously cooled so that the temperature is 45 degrees centigrade. So here, this is my control volume, the hot sheet coming in, the hot sheet going out, the hot metal sheet. Hot metal going in and cold metal coming out. So you have to do a balance here. Steady state flow process. So it is not a liquid, but still it's a solid, but still it has a mass coming in and mass going out, and you can solve it. So this is another problem. A computer is cooled by a fan blowing air through the case of the computer, right? So inside the computer, you know, we have the CPU, right? And this, as you do run your computer, the CPU produces heat, and that is why in the case of the computer, you have a fan, so that it will push through certain amount of air through that case. Certain amount of air will be passing through that case. Now we have to know how much of air, you know, what should be the capacity of your fan, so that certain amount of air goes through that case and it gets heated up and the air is thrown out, hot air is thrown out. That is the what happens. So we have to assume steady flow condition where air is coming in, and air is air. We can consider it to be ideal gas. So kinetic energy, potential energy changes are negligible. Air is an ideal gas with constant specific heat. Right? Specific heat is constant. Right? So if you want to be more accurate, you have to take variable specific heat. So if you read up the properties from the tables, that is based on variable specific heat, right? Non-ideal condition. For air also properties are given, enthalpy with temperature. No, because we know in reality the specific heat is not constant, it varies with. So that is why you have to look up the tables to find out the change in enthalpy, unless you assume it to be an ideal, ideal gas. Ideal gas means Cp equal to, ideal gas means here means that is ideal gas, and constant specific heat is different. Constant specific heat means dH equal to Cp dt and Tu equal to Cv dt, right? And we are talking about these are constants. Not depend on temperature. That is what we mean. So we mean that Cp and Cv is not dependent on temperature. And ideal means PV equal to RT. Right? So if that is so, we know how to calculate the change in enthalpy and change in internal energy. So if it's steady state, steady flow, you can easily calculate. Okay. So what is this fan power? The fan power is 25 kilowatt. So the fan is inside, so this will also work. See, what is happening is the fan is like a shaft, right? You're rotating it. So when you rotate it, so that is also, that fan is inside. So that also will generate some heat, that fan, right? It is driven by a motor. So that also, it is like work input. So that is also contributing to work. So when you analysis, you also have to consider that 25 kilowatt of. Uh, so that is why you have to add it up, right? So this is for fan power, and this is for CPU. 8, 8 chips or whatever. This is the CPU. CPU is there and also the fan, right? So this is the work in and this is the Q in, work input, Q input. Normally work input is, so this is written in a way so that this is the input. Normally we write it so that work output. So then we write minus Q minus. So this is equal to, either we can write like this or we can write minus. If we write minus Q minus, then we write W out, and if we write in, then we have to write Q, right? So this is how we have to solve it, right? And so this is how we have to do the energy balance. So there is another problem with hot water, right? Enters a pipe and the surface is exposed to cold air, right? So this is the heat transfer. So this is in, out, and this is the heat transfer. So here also same thing, we have to do the energy balance, right? Not much here. Now this is a different type of problem with piston cylinder. We have also discussed many piston cylinder problems earlier also, right? So this is contains air, right? Okay. So gas constant is given. RT. So the initial mass is known because the conditions are known. Initial mass becomes known, right? Initial mass. Air is allowed to escape, right? So mass out. Right. So it is not a not steady state, steady flow. It's not steady. So inside there is a change. So previously we were mostly discussing steady state, steady flow, where inlet is same as outlet. So here there is no only outlet, right? Only outlet, no inlet. So this is the mass, and so mass initial and final. Okay, final mass is known. So okay, so if the pressure is maintained, initially this is the pressure, so, and this is the initial volume. So change in volume, right? Change in volume. So because the piston is moving, right? So change in volume is there. So this is a change in volume. So this is the change in volume, right? This change in volume. So at pressure, if this change in volume, you know the change in the temperatures also becomes known, the initial temperature and the final temperature, right? Temperature also becomes known. So PV, pressure volume is given and the mass is same, so you can find out. And this gives you the work done. So we can find out if you have to have so much of air going out, then you know what work is being transferred because the piston goes down. Okay. So this is also not steady state, steady flow. No, so one inlet. So one inlet, one inlet. So this is helium. Gas is flowing. So the temperature of the helium is to be determined. Now this problem I have already discussed with you previously when we are talking about filling of our uh, gas cylinders. We use gas cylinders at home for cooking, and when it is in the plant, it has to be filled up from a header. So this is also that problem where you are filling it up from a header, which is 120 degrees centigrade. So once this is given, here you know what is the H. Here H is given. So enthalpy H is known here because 200 Kelvin and 120 centigrade, the enthalpy coming in is known. Okay. So this is the enthalpy coming in. You can do it in different ways. So you have to see it will go from E1 to E2, right? It will go from the energy will go from E1 to E2 if you are filling it up. So how will this change? Energy change will happen from E1 to E2, right? Because of the enthalpy that is coming in. So you have to set up the equation because of the enthalpy coming in. Right? And how will you do mass balance? Mass balance means M1 it goes to M2, and so M2 minus M1 equal to delta M E, right? This is also mass balance. This mass balance also has to be done, right? So just a minute. Hello, my class is going. Class. So here, so this is the mass balance. So you have the energy balance you have to write, and the mass balance equation also you have to write. So, and this energy will change, right? And this is the delta M, and this is H. Here also, what is coming in through that is delta M. So delta M is coming in, which is M2 minus N1, and here this is E1 minus E2, where E1 is equal to M1 into E1, and E2 is equal to M2 into E2. So this is how you have to set up the equations. E1 and E2 is dependent on also, this is specific, right, energy. So here if we neglect kinetic and potential, so E is equal to U, right, plus Ke plus P. So this is 0 and this is 0. So energy is basically internal energy. So this and this is dependent on, right, E is dependent on temperature. So this is how you have to set up the equations, right? You have to set up the equations like that. Rigid tank initially contains air at atmospheric conditions. The tank is connected to a supply line and air is allowed to enter the tank until mechanical equilibrium is reached. What is mechanical equilibrium? When will you have mechanical equilibrium? When the header pressure, supply line pressure means equal to tank pressure. Supply pressure is equal to tank pressure. That is when it will become. So air is again ideal gas. Right. So what is happening here? So this is the supply pressure. And this is the tank pressure initially. So if you open the valve, what will happen is there is heat flow will take place, right? H. Right? We know the H that is coming into the system. And here you will have E2, right? We'll go to E1 to E2, right? This, write it. So what will happen is, so you will have M1, E1, you go to M2, E2, right? E2 basically means U1. So M1 U1, M2 U2. Okay, this is the change. Why is it happening? Because this enthalpy is coming in, right? This changing. So mass, and how much mass? M2 minus M1. That is the mass that is coming in. Why do you use? I told you why are you using enthalpy and not internal energy U? Because you are also accounting for the flow work U plus PV. So this is coming in. So this is how you have to do the balancing, right? You have to do the balancing. Okay. Ultimately, finally, what will happen when the supply pressure equals to, when this pressure 100 kilopascal becomes equal to 600 kilopascal, this will stop, right? This will stop. So let us stop it here. So you can set up this and then you can do the solve it like this. Okay. So let us end it here. We have it is almost done. So you need to again go through these lectures and then try to understand what is involved. Okay, do you have any questions?